As soon as it says live on the screen, you're ready to go.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, all. To our Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education Committee meeting tonight on the 26th of September 2023. So this meeting will be virtual meeting live on E-Link's YouTube. I welcome everybody who have joined us tonight. So we have first of all, I will start off with apologies for absence and substitutions. Could I ask Keith if we are correct?
We are correct, yes.
Good. Any apologies?
Not that I'm aware of, but it is possible that I don't know, simply because I wasn't going to be clerking this meeting.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't received any apologies either.
Yeah.
But it's Sam, isn't it? Sam is not participating today.
Sorry?
Sam. It's not.
Sam,
it's not
I will let you know later on. Yes, yeah, Keith is clerking tonight. It's very kind of him to come and support us. Yeah.
Just to say, I'm going to join on my computer, Councillor. I'm going to join on my computer because I'm on my phone at the moment. So I'll disappear, but I'll be back shortly. Thank you.
That's fine, Councillor. Yeah. Urgent matters?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
All right, thank you. Declaration of interest? I haven't received any. I don't. Right, I tend to. No. Matters to be considered in private? None so far. So minutes of the last meeting. Unfortunately, these minutes were sent out only today. And members have not been given 7 days notice for the agenda to be on this item. So we will have to defer this item to the next meeting. So there was unfortunately, because of the staff changing, the previous meetings and minutes were sent out previously. So today was sent or last meeting, so which held on the 30th of March. So we will really, we can't discuss these minutes tonight. So we will defer to the next meeting.
Chair?
Yes, Keith.
So all I was going to say is that you did actually receive the minutes. I mean, the meeting did prior to the meeting, but unfortunately they didn't get attached whilst I was away to the agenda. So that's what's happened. So I would suggest in the meantime, if anybody's got any comments, and I think Luqman had, then just send them to Democratic Services in the usual way, and one of us will pick it up, either Sam or myself, and we can, adjust them accordingly, if you agree.
That's fine. I agree with you.
Lakshman? And they'll be approved at the next meeting, as you say. Yeah.
Would you?
Sorry, Lakshman. I wanted to be discussed in the next meeting all minutes. I think there were a lot of issues raised. So it's better to discuss as a whole group or with all members. So if there are any burning issues, they can send you or to the members room, to the Democratic Services.
Chair, the only thing I'd say about that is that unfortunately, once the minutes are published, as you know, we can't change them until the next meeting, when we note down everything that was wrong with the previous minutes, if you see what I mean. So that's the only issue with that. So they are already published. So we'll just have to pick up all the comments in the minutes of the next meeting, if you see what I mean.
Right.
Yes.
Point taken.
Yes.
Thanks, Gates. Yeah. Please raise or send your any concerns or any views on these minutes to the Democratic Services. Thank you. Lakshman?
Yeah, just I sent a very small comment. Do you want me to resend that, Keith? Or
No, it's okay. I've seen that, so I'll just pick up anything that's in that. You know, either sent to me or sent to Democratic Services. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paul?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just trying to get clarification on the point that Keith was making, because I thought we weren't able to deal with them today because they haven't been kind of properly published through the official process. So if that's the case, then they haven't been published yet. So why can't we make changes to them before they're officially published?
Well, the problem is they are published. We haven't given the 5 days for people to read them. That's the issue. So it was
I see.
One of those things that happened whilst I was away on holiday, and it's unfortunate. I'm really sorry.
Sam, let me make it clear. Sam Kirkham, it's a new Democratic officer, has been appointed to this post to support us. Unfortunately, he couldn't be with us tonight due to personal reasons. So that's why Keith has agreed to come and support us in this meeting. So that's what we are at. That's what the mistake was there. That's where the error was made. Yeah. Thank you. Shall we move on? Yeah. Thank you. Right. Item 6, determination of renewal. I'll ask Marella to talk about the determination of renewal. I think as a Villiers High School to consider their application. Have we got anyone here to present their report?
Yes, Chair, I'm Chris Richards, head teacher at Villiers High School.
Oh, hi, Chris. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead. You can present.
Oh, great. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks very much. I'd like to, first of all, give a little bit of context about the school for those of you who aren't familiar, and then talk about why we wanted to go for the determination renewal. It's not the first time that we've determined, and some of the things that we do. And do stop me if I've gone on too long, or if you want more detail, of course. Mm-hmm. So we've currently got just under 1,500 children at the school. The major religions in order of proportion are Islam, 34%, Christianity, 20%, Hinduism, around 18%, and Sikhism, 17%. We have a small number of humanists and atheists, as well as Judaism, some students identifying as other, and nearly 7% with no religion. So we're applying for a determination renewal because of these reasons. When we surveyed both parents and students, it was very much supported by our pupils strongly, and the majority of parents also supported, with around a third of parents really strongly supporting that decision. We don't serve a broadly Christian population, so we want to incorporate a range of religious beliefs, faiths, and non-religious or faith-based values to represent the families of the community. So our values thread through everything we do, and they are honesty, equity, aspiration, respect, and tenacity. But we find equity and respect are common themes in our collective worship activities. Sue Larson came this morning, thank you very much, Sue, and she saw an assembly based around those two particular values. So through these values, we're aiming to avoid division and draw out the commonalities between religious and non-religious communities, as well as celebrating all of our differences. There are many common lessons and themes and strands of morality running through the religions and values, which support all of our pupils. This means that all groups at the school exist harmoniously in spite of coming from a wide set of belief structures and systems. There's the opportunity for all to study GCSE RE and A-level RE and philosophy, and a good number do every year. The results have been very strong for the last few years. We're national curriculum compliant, and so the major religions are represented through the curriculum in RE, which is taught for 1 period a week in Key Stage 3. A period is 50 minutes, and 2 periods in Key Stage 4. The less well-represented religions are also taught, and visits to places of worship such as churches, mosques, and gurdwaras are a feature. We also have visiting faith leaders who support our collective worship, as well as the RE curriculum. We've been decolonising our curriculum so that our learners see themselves in the curriculum and can contextualise how history, the present, and the future are linked to them and their beliefs. We promote British values during collective worship time through PSHE and assemblies. We're a rights-respecting school, working at around bronze level. We haven't quite yet achieved it, but we expect to by Christmas. And we educate all staff and students about protected characteristics well. We have some staff groups who represent the groups, and there's a Christian group who meet and pray together. Students and staff have dedicated space to pray on site. For example, on Fridays, Muslim staff and students pray at lunchtime in some of the English rooms. We've recently held the Stonewall Bronze Award. We're currently Silver Educate and Celebrate Pride in EDI School, and we've completed the Platinum Award too. 2 of our staff have completed the Diverse Educators Leadership course in EDI. Pupils and staff are encouraged to reflect on how students who have different sexual orientation and gender identities to their own are represented in belief systems, and how this can be reconciled. This is usually done through PSHE and through tutor time. Our assemblies focus around weekly themes. So the thought for the week embeds the theme, and there's one tutor time completely focused on this. But the theme is revisited every day and forms part of the student discussions during form time. This provides opportunities for daily reflection. There's usually a quote from a world leader or a world-class thinker on events which pupils reflect on. So, for example, we talked about Malala Yousafzai when we were considering the education of girls in Afghanistan. How would it feel if I couldn't go to school, but my friends could? What are the implications for that? So that really caused the pupils to think, okay, maybe I don't want to be in school every day, but if I couldn't go to school every day, how would that make me feel? So our themes are linked to the PSHE curriculum, safeguarding, nationally important days, recognising significant events in different religious and non-religious communities through performances, for example, such as Guru Nanak's birthday, Diwali, Eid, Christmas and Easter. Children are encouraged to reflect on what they've watched and ask questions. Sometimes we celebrate historical importance, such as the Holocaust, rights and respect awareness, which is one of our school's values, for example, Black History Month and LGBT History Month. Children are encouraged to participate in and lead assemblies, and our student leaders contribute to the themes. Since lockdowns and COVID, we've incorporated PERMA, which stands for Positive Emotion, Engagement, Relationships, Meaning and Accomplishments. So that's all to do with developing strong mental health. So that's in form times, which causes children to reflect on the quality of their mental health while giving them strategies to support it. Children discuss the methods which work best for them, and they learn new ones from each other. We also, for a little while, trialled an application on phones called Tranquility, and children spent a few minutes each day at home reflecting on their day, their moods, and what they could do to support their mental health. The thought for the week often spills into PSHE time and is developed further with a 50-minute lesson taught by the form tutor. We have awareness months, such as Anti-Islamophobia Month, where there are competitions, a focus in form time and assembly, special foods in the canteen celebrating the culture or the concept, assemblies and visiting speakers. In Anti-Bullying Week, we had a visit from a company called Humanitopia with years 8 and 9. And it was a half-day experience where pupils were encouraged to reflect on bullying that they've either experienced, witnessed, or taken part in. And it was really a humbling experience for all those concerned. And the level of reflection led to some pupils who'd formerly been bullies themselves deeply regretting their actions and making amends with their peers. In RE lessons, there's lots of high-quality work and reflection, and discussion and debate is a big part of this. There's also a philosophy club which has been running for a few years now. In other lessons, deep thinking is strongly encouraged through part of our teaching and learning strategy, which is called Teaching the Villiers Way. And teachers are encouraged to give children plenty of thinking time to reflect on the big questions they're asking before requesting a response. When responses are given, the teacher doesn't just immediately give a correct or incorrect. They ask other pupils to reflect on the quality of the answer before reaching a consensus. Following a lot of our collective worship or reflection, we focus on discussion and talk for writing rather than writing it all down immediately, as we need to build students' oracy skills. And we know that they often learn best by discussing their ideas and being able to marshal their thoughts before they write it down. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a flavour of our context and some of the things we're doing in relation to collective worship.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you. Sue, thank you very much for attending this school. Sue Larson.
Hi there.
Do you want to add anything?
I mean, I'll just say I have written up the report, but I think it maybe hasn't made it out to the SACRE members yet. But just to say that, in my visit, I observed a Year 10 assembly. There was a very well-established routine of sort of entering calmly and quietly, and it was a very thoughtful and reflective assembly, delivered very well by one of the senior leadership team. And as Chris has mentioned, it clearly linked to the school's values of equity and respect. And there was plenty of opportunity within the assembly for pupils to be challenged at that deep level, and that sort of deeper thinking that we were looking for in acts of reflection and collective worship. And I think some of the things that Chris just talked about there in terms of the wider curriculum, I really got a sense at Villiers High School that there is a culture of openness, reflection and deep thinking that's embedded in the school. And it's not just taking place in sort of assemblies and reflection times, but actually it's a culture that's created in through many of the lessons, like in RE and PSHE as well. And it felt like a very supportive environment where there is space for children to explore their own spiritual and moral development. So yeah, I really enjoyed my visit there. The school clearly take the spiritual and moral development of their pupils seriously. There's a well-planned program. It's carefully timetabled to allow daily opportunities. Yeah, it was a pleasure to visit. I've got no hesitation in recommending that we move the determination forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Maria?
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. That's really interesting. And I can see you do a huge amount of very important stuff right across the curriculum. But what I wonder is, because these issues seem to be embedded in so much of the curriculum in your school life, how are your, if you can briefly answer, how are the staff trained to deliver such a huge range of material in addition to their own specialist subjects? And how do they deal with their own unconscious bias?
It's a really excellent question, and thank you for answering it. We've spent a number of years developing our assembly protocol and our PSHE structures. So we make sure that for that aspect where they have to speak about specific events, there are pre-planned resources which have been developed over time, refined, improved. We've got a very big culture of feedback on all of that. Where you have, say, a new head of year who's giving an assembly, there's always a senior leader attached who will have experienced or done that kind of event before, where it's a new event. So, for example, I was actually acting head teacher when the Queen sadly passed, and we kind of drew on the community of other professionals out there and looked at the best resources and did a bit of work sort of in the moment, I suppose. When it came to thinking deeply across the curriculum, we've got a well-established continuous professional learning program at school where we do focus on question and answer and the kind of metacognition of giving children thinking time before they consider giving an answer. So I suppose in a sense, the subject knowledge when it comes to those big, say, religious events isn't necessarily hugely deep, but there is a wealth of experience in delivering it. And so anybody who's new gets some training on doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind me also chipping in, Chris, because I actually asked the same question when I was there and met with some of your staff, and because I asked how was it monitored, how did they know that staff were feeling confident and able to deliver the collective worship in tutor times, which happens 4 times a week. They have a sort of large year group assembly once a week, and then the rest of it is delivered in tutor times. And the staff very much talked about that culture of openness and support, and how the discussion of how to respond to challenging questions from pupils or how to deal with difficult topics is discussed, and there's a real sense that there's experts in the school that people can go to in order to get guidance on those more tricky issues.
Thank you. John Wall?
Yes, more of a comment than a question, really, but I was very impressed by the presentation from Chris, the rights-based approach, the emphasis on thinking time, the anti-bullying work, which sounds, the results of that sounded fantastic, and the LGBT approach as well. So there does seem to be a lot of best practice that could be shared with other schools. It sounds, very impressive. I think it's the best presentation from a school, I think, that I've heard since I've been on SACRE.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor. Miriam Rice. Councillor Rice? Councillor Rice, are you there?
Oh yes, yeah. Thank you, Chair. Hello. Yes, because I was very impressed by hearing the report as well, and also the example of getting children to think about what it'd be like if they weren't allowed to have schooling. I thought that was really kind of inspired way of looking at things. I just want to clarify on one point, is that reading through the paperwork, it seemed to state that there were no Jewish children at the school. However, on the page of the application form, it states there are 2 Jewish pupils. And so I just wanted to clarify what is the situation. I would assume that maybe the Jewish children are quite new to the school, perhaps, and I wonder how that really works for you if you've got a brand new faith actually come into the school, and how you look after the children as best you can. Thank you.
Apologies for the confusion in the paperwork. We do have Jewish students, yes. As far as a religion to the school, it's not a new one. We have a couple of members of staff who are Jewish, and they have, for those reasons, we have been looking at celebrating Rosh Hashanah and various other different events throughout the Jewish calendar, and they have appeared in our calendar timeline previously. So it's something that we're familiar with, and we will probably now make more of a feature as we've got those students in the sort of earlier years. You're absolutely right.
Thank you very much. I've got Apra Sharma.
Oh yeah, hi. I have, the one question basically, the thought of the week activities which are being mentioned over here. For example, the questions like, imagine you move to another country, or the female student in Afghanistan who is denied the opportunity to attend the school. Mm-hmm. I don't think how this is related to the situation over here, actually. Maybe, the examples of the collective worship could be related to the situation the children may face over here. For example, what if you are bullied in the school? What if you are, if you are fat or something like that, or, you are not, you look different from others, or maybe you are, offer some different ability. So I think the questions which have been put over here does not relate to the landscape, the issues the children face over here. Yeah, so this is one of the things which I felt. Maybe in the collective worship, this needs to change, like what are the thought we are asking the children to think about. We do not want our children to think about the situation which are not related to them over here, actually, because they have more, things to worry about here.
May I respond?
Please do, yeah.
No, I definitely take your point, and obviously within the pack of examples and within the presentation, that we can only give a limited number to you, and it was difficult enough kind of sending those over. I'm sure the SACRE committee has found. We do focus on issues close to home very regularly, but the issue of Afghanistan was very recent, and it was appearing in the news, and children were asking us questions about it. And obviously what we do best as a school is educate about those things. So we wanted them to understand that situation. Obviously it wasn't given as much weight, say, as some of the other things that you've mentioned there, but it was an internationally sort of recognized event that was in the news for quite some period of time.
Thank you. We got now Barjinder Lal. Brajinder, are you
Thank
there?
you. Yes, thank you, Chair, for that. And thank you, Chris, for the insights and the report from Sue. My question to you is that you mentioned in your report and in your presentation about decolonisation of curriculum. I wonder, how are the students involved in that process of decolonising and encouraging their perspectives and questions, which then incorporate back as feedback into the curriculum development process?
Brilliant question again. Gosh, I was not expecting all of these wonderful questions. So thank you, councillors and others. So the children are involved. They're not involved necessarily initially, but what we did a few years ago, along with many other schools, was we heard about decolonisation of the curriculum, and we learned about the impact that it has on children. So when we are studying events in history and we don't see any brown faces, we don't see any black faces, we don't see anyone who's a hero who is yellow, and these sorts of things, we realised the impact that would have on those children, who then didn't seem to connect to the history of the world in which they inhabit now. And so we decided, for them to have a really meaningful learning experience, it was important that we started to represent them. So what we did was we started to make those adjustments, and we asked questions in class, and we said, do you know about this aspect of your history? Did you know about the Southall riots? So we get students involved in learning about the Southall riots, researching local history, doing oral history projects, and then creating assembly resources, which then feed into our collective worship programme, for example. With the subject areas around the school, which aren't, say, specifically collective worship based, the heads of department generally are the ones who do that piece of work in collaboration with their team. We have pupil voice as part of our departmental reviews every year. So we ask the students questions such as, do you see yourself now represented in the curriculum? And if they say no, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not there, but it might mean that we haven't emphasized it as much. Have you learnt about a figure from a culture that you feel connected to? Those sorts of questions, and the children are very forthright in letting us know when they haven't been, and I think it's quite a humbling experience for us, especially when they say no, and we think, what can we do differently about that? So we definitely are not the finished product yet, but we're working very hard on it.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And if you need any help, please reach out.
Oh, lovely. Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any more questions? No hands up. Yeah. Mirella, do you have anything to add? No.
I just wanted to thank Sue for the visit. I know it's been a bit of a last minute, and Chris, sorry, we apologize to you, because I know how busy you are, and you have a very busy schedule with lots of activities. One thing though I wanted to comment, it's interesting, everything that Chris mentioned kind of echoes in other areas, aspects of school. It's such a wonderful and such a lovely school in terms of the ethos, in terms of the values that they hold. And I have actually had the pleasure to attend so many activities, religious activities there as well, which are absolutely fantastic. And I agree with Councillor Julian that this practice should be shared. Sorry, Councillor Bell, this practice, good practice, should be shared, and hopefully that report that Sue has produced, which is excellent, sharp, short, and excellent, we need to kind of make some case studies so people can see what the good practice looks like, and then we can share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mirella. Yeah, I read this report with a great pleasure. I think so. Credit goes to you. It's a lovely report you have. It's a very detailed report. I was impressed that the school is doing so much. So thank you very much. So Chris, are you staying with us, or?
I wasn't going to, if that's all right. I'd like to put my son to bed, but thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Thanks. So members, have we considered the application and the determination? What are your views about this Villiers High School's determination. Do you think we should renew? We need to renew?
Yes, Chair, I put motions and I'm very impressed, and well, I think we should recommend for review and approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Likewise, Chair. I'm a newcomer, but I'm very impressed, and I think that's highly encouraging, and I would echo that too.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor. Miriam Rice? Councillor Rice?
Yes, I'm very impressed. Yes, so yes.
Councillor Board?
Yes, as I said earlier, I think it's very, very good. So we definitely should approve them. Yes.
Thank you very much. All Group D is supporting. What about the other groups?
Yes.
All right, Bajendalal. Yeah, thank you.
Accept.
Thank you, Mariam. Yeah. So we are happy to renew the determination of Villiers High School. It has been a really quite impressive presentation and as well as the report. Thank you very much. So next item is, shall we move on? Yeah.
Please, yeah.
Determination schedule, Mirella.
Let me just share my screen. You know, I like to kind of show some PowerPoints.
Right.
At times. It's not showing here. Basically, I had a look in our documentation, and I jotted down all the schools that they are due for a determination. I wanted actually to share that with you because we need to plan in advance, because we know, Chair and I, we've been kind of in contact quite a lot in terms of liaising with members who was going to visit Villiers High. So basically, for spring term 2024, we have Dairy Meadow Primary School. They are due to have their renewal, so the next date available will be the next meeting we've got in spring. Obviously, we will be sending the documentation and the invitation now, so to give them some time to prepare. But I would urge members to volunteer and to talk about, to who is going to visit, and possibly 2 people, okay? In summer 2024, we've got Beaconsfield Primary School and North Primary School. Now, these schools are a little bit different to the others because when I checked all the documentation, so as I've said to you, I'm looking at everything and renewing and creating a new database. These schools haven't been done since 2006. So I thought maybe this will be the priority, and I don't know what the members feel about it. Do we have any ideas? Do you agree with that?
Chair, through
yes,
you.
Yes, Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah, through you, Chair, we completely agree. And it looks like the last time they did in 2006, it's been a long time. And I think this is the time has to cover these 2 schools. I strongly recommend that. And if the dates are available, I'm happy to volunteer that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mariam.
Don't we have to wait for them to apply to us?
Can I bring in here Jan? Because I think we need a bit of advice and clarification with regards to the determination. Okay?
Yes.
Jan, would you please? Thank you.
Shall we take another question from Councillor Ball first?
Well, that's right. It wasn't really a question. I was just really agreeing with Councillor Mahmood.
Right.
All things being equal, it seems to make sense to look at the schools that have had the longest time since they previously had a determination. I mean, so I take the point that they do need to apply to us, but if they are willing to apply and they haven't put a determination for a very long time, then it makes sense to deal with them rather than the more recent ones. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's hear from Jan.
Yes, thank you. I think that you're all right, actually, with what you've said. Perhaps the first thing would be to send out a reminder to the schools just to make sure that if they wish to to put forward for a determination, it just reminds them that they haven't done so. And you really should be dealing with the schools that have already applied to you for determination. That should be the first schools that you look at, because that it is about who applies to SACRE for a determination, and that we should respond to those applications. And then I think you're right, for those schools that haven't applied, but you've got a sort of feeling that they might still need to have a determination, that you send a reminder to them. I think that would be my advice.
Right, thank you. I think that's what I was thinking earlier on. As far as I understand, ELP advisor need to write to these schools first. Then the schools, they can ask their governing bodies to consider, to talk, and then to discuss with the children's parents. Am I right?
Yeah.
Before they apply. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you notice, Jan used a very careful word there, if they wish to apply, because if the school, believes that whatever provision they've got there in school meets the needs of all their community in the school, and if the parents are happy, community is happy, and so that they don't need to apply for it, but they have to prove that they are meeting the needs of all the children there. Okay, what may I share what I have started to do already? Very briefly, I've a bullet point there, like work in progress. That means that I am actually updating the data we've got, but in the meantime, I'm also providing an information, producing an information pack, very brief pack. There is quite a lot of lovely information we've got in school, in our website, but we need to have a much useful tool. And one of the things that I'm working on is a flow chart of the processes. A school that applies for the first time, a school that has applied before, what processes are there, what do they need to do? And I think showing it to some head teachers as a draft, they thought this will be brilliant. This is what we need. And the other thing that I wanted to share, the principal advisors, secondary and primary, they all mention about determination in every meeting they have with head teachers. So hopefully people will think, schools will think, and they will come forward if they feel that they should apply for a determination. Okay, is that enough for?
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah. So the report has been noted. Thank you very much, Mirala.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to agenda item 8. It's a schools engagement. Schools engagement with the local authorities. Mirella.
Yes, I will share some good news today, because last night, as I was preparing the PowerPoint, I received some nice news from somebody who works with the DFE and the NATRA, and in producing the data for the whole country. And I will share it in a minute, but I just wanted to share, first of all, the priorities that we're working on. Obviously, we want to continue a strong support system with our schools through different means that we do, through advice, through training and things like that. Also monitoring, so that we make sure that all the schools meet the requirements in the new RE agreed syllabus. We facilitate leadership development because we believe that development of leaders will be important in order to drive changes, to drive moving forward with everything that we require for the application and implementing the RE curriculum, the agreed syllabus. Luckily, Jan will be working with me on primary RE network meetings, and we're having the next one, the 5th of October. We already have a very dense agenda, and hopefully people will be, schools will be more able after that to do more better things in their schools. Parallel with the primary schools, there are also secondary primary network meetings led by a lady from a high school. She will be attending, Lydia, she will be attending in the next meeting. I have invited her to come and share what they do in secondary schools, so members will know what happens there. Okay. Today I have been also informed by NATRE that there is some free training offered to new teachers, but also new teachers of RE, not just in general to early career teachers. And these are the themes they offer. So I have shared that with all the schools. And from today, I know I received emails that people will book into it, and hopefully this will make a difference into their subject knowledge and confidence in teaching of RE, and ultimately a difference in children's performance in our RE. Now, this is the good news, and we have reasons to celebrate, because Ealing came 5th out of the 151 local authorities for percentage of pupils who entered the GCSE religious studies at the end of Key Stage 4. You can see I've put a little arrow there because it was quite a small document, but I am happy to share it with everybody. And this data comes from the workforce census. Normally, the workforce census starts in November, and then by December, people will have completed it. And then in June, the DFE produces a report. So NATRE has contributed into this kind of gathering the data and producing a report for the DFE. Before, schools did not report on the curriculum. They reported only on the workforce census, but now more than 80%, about 85% of all schools in the country do report now on the curriculum, and RE is one of the subjects. Okay, so this is how the full document it looks like. If you see the green areas, the darker green, you see that that is where the better data is, you know, where the higher results are. And you can see that Ealing comes into the darker areas. They also provided some other information which would be of interest to you about the RE teaching hours. This is only secondary schools. We don't have yet about the primary schools, but probably we might get this through quality assurances or any questions that we will do. I'm thinking about it actually at the moment, how we can get that data. But you can see that all our schools are doing well. Now, I just wanted to clarify something. When it says 0, this doesn't mean that the school is not doing, is not providing RE lessons in those year groups. It might be that when they report it under a different subject, probably philosophy or something else. Okay, so that is what that means. The same, similar with Z. And you can see that our schools they provide quite a good number of, the required hours of RE as per our syllabus. And most important as well is the attainment of children in Ealing with regards to the RE is really, really high. And you can see from the last column, these are achieving grades from 4 to 9. And for the people who are not very familiar with the GCSE grades, I put a little bit of information there, how they relate to the old grades. Well, basically, pupils need to have a 4, and it is a standard pass in order to complete, to be getting the GCSE. And 5 is a strong pass. Normally, the government uses 5 as a figure in terms of league tables. Okay, so you can see the national figure for the GCSE RE basically is 73%, something like that. And look at our schools; they are well above that number. Okay, we don't know what happened to our Acton Academy. We don't know whether they provide some lessons like that. We don't know whether they report even on the data. We're not sure of that. Okay. Now, how can SACRE use this data? When I was preparing this last night, I thought it's important that I share this with you because Maybe you would like to, probably in your conversations with your schools, maybe you need to encourage them to report their RE data accurately under the correct name as a religious education. And maybe you can have conversations, including myself, with those schools, you know, what's happening there, why the teaching hours are not showing correctly. DFE report, also the annual report that we produce, the DFE has given the permission to us to use that data. We can quote in our communications that this data comes from NATRE, because it's obviously a summary of the DFE data, but the DFE has given us the permission to use this data for our annual report. And I'm closing here because obviously there are other items. I will come to this in a minute, or maybe I can do this now since I'm talking about the communication with schools. I think it feels like last year that we did the review of the old curriculum, but that time probably is soon approaching. And this is just a suggestion, and I would like your views on it. Because obviously our curriculum came into force in 2020, that difficult year that schools were struggling to implement it because of COVID. But now we are just probably in 2023, 2024, maybe we need to think about of the process of starting to review what we have, and then we prepare the way for the curriculum design and development in 2024, 2025. So in September 2025, we have our new e-learning agreed syllabus ready. We might agree that it is good as it is, the schools might support it, but I think your reviews will be very important here so that we can start planning our activities. We talked last time about an RE policy, and I still urge the team members to discuss what we can include in our e-learning RE policy model. There are loads that are circulating, and one of them is from NATRE, a good one as an example, but that is more kind of a general model that it is being given to all the schools. I think we need to give it a little bit of e-learning touch. We need to bring that in our RE policy. And I remember Councillor Mahmoud last time agreed very much with this. So hopefully I will have your support in this, and then we can start our work on the RE policy. So that's it from me for the moment. Have you got any questions for me, please? Yeah.
Not questions, Marella. I think there are in chat box. Lot of members have agreed. Thank you very. Thank you. Yes, please renew it. Yes, Glenn Birchall, Brajinder Korla, Dr. Aisha Raza. Very impressed with work at Villiers High. Oh, that was Villiers High. Agreed with the syllabus review time planning. Yeah, thank you very much.
Chair, can I ask a question with your permission?
Yes, please do. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you so much, and I understand how much help officer provided that when we were doing our review syllabus 2020, and I'm absolutely with you. We should start gearing up on that direction where we can produce something good for 2025, I think so. But I'm just wondering, is there any data or is there anything you are monitoring? The help is available for the specialist schools in terms of our RE syllabus, RE review syllabus implementation?
Such an interesting question. You would recall last time when we had the meeting, I did a presentation. I brought a case study from a special school. I am absolutely aware that maybe we need to do a bit more about that. But what they've done, they have developed, they are using our curriculum, but they have adapted the lessons and the resources to children with special needs. But maybe this would be something that could be the focus of our monitoring this year, you know, so we can see other schools, how they do it. But John Chilton really impressed me when I asked them to share something with us. Probably in the next curriculum, maybe we need, I know that we've got in our syllabus section about special needs, but probably maybe what I'm thinking the schools would be, along with the curriculum, the schools will be happy if they've got some case studies attached to it. And probably we could use our own case studies from Ealing. It's good to share practice. It's good to be proud of what we achieve in Ealing. And the schools will use that as a resource. And I've done this in the past when I did Gifted and Talented Children, where I collected different schools and we did a project and I produced a book about, you know, with all case studies, and they still use that one. Why not in RE? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for clarification.
Thank you. Councillor
Thanks.
Councillor Gallant, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marilla. Just could you just go back to what you reported on the ARC Priory, because there's two primaries, there's ARC Priory and Byron, and then there's the two secondaries as well. And I'm surprised that they'd be reporting in a different way from each other, because that would be should be the same for the group, no?
Yeah, that is for us to raise it with them, but absolutely, I was also surprised to see, you know, because is this what you're looking for? No, sorry, this one.
It was, wasn't it? Perhaps it was, yeah.
What I have actually that I haven't shared with you, there is another slide that another document that I've got where they have also included philosophy. And I would have a look later on maybe, and I can probably explain. Maybe they include it under philosophy, but I have a feeling probably they missed. Sometimes it is they miss the deadline, or maybe they don't even report it.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there is they come from different. I mean, they are in the ARC group, but they have different origins. I mean, ARC Zone is you know, ARC Acton was obviously came from a different place. Yeah. Anyway, if you want me to go and if you want me to, I'm very close to them. I can always make an inquiry there if that's helpful. Okay, I know the school quite well.
Yeah, that would be wonderful, you know, because this is what we are doing actually in ELP, Ealing Learning Partnership, in schools that we go. I mean, my boss is going tomorrow to Northolt. We know that Northolt does beautiful lessons in RE and so on, but they have somehow year 9 and year 10 and 11 and 12 and 13, they're not doing anything, it shows here in the, so we need to ask that question. We shouldn't be assuming they're doing it or they're not doing it. We just ask the questions and then raise that awareness that when they report it as RE separately to philosophy, or sometimes people do it as world views, something like that. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marilla.
Shall I stop sharing, or does anybody else want to go further? But as I said, I just want to repeat the importance of planning in advance the meeting, the visits for determination. And once we have a schedule, you know, kind of when this will happen, you know, maybe when we create that schedule, when we send in the letters, when they should be getting the names of people visiting them, maybe if I could have some volunteers, you know, because I offered myself as well, but it wouldn't look good because I go and monitor them for other things, and it just conflict of interest for me, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Great.
Happy to help.
Thank you.
Brajinder, thank you very much, Brajinder. Yeah. I think you offered your support last time as well, Brajinder. Thank you very much.
No worries. Thank you.
Right. I think we agree with this report and to renew this planning.
Agreed, Chair.
Agreed. Thank you very much, Miranda. We can work on this new proposals.
So, Chair, sorry, just before you move on, can I send you later for the next meeting? Maybe I can I can share with SACRE kind of a timeline where we can jot the activities that will take place, because I need also to plan it. I'm also responsible for other things in Ealing. I need to see my timing. So but I'd like to prepare things in advance as much as possible. And also it is likely we will get more ideas from the schools if we give them enough time.
Yeah, I think that should be considered. That will be fine. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you got a couple of people who can visit schools. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So number 9 is Ealing agreed syllabus. It's again you, Marella.
Yeah, in a way, I summarized everything in those slides. So basically, because we don't have to report anything now, it's September, they've just started school. But basically, that is what I wanted to share. But again, I would like to ask Jan what she thinks of timelines in terms of the agreed syllabus, what she would be able to advise us to do. We have quite a good curriculum. It doesn't mean that we have to throw it, but we still need to review it according to law.
Of course, of course.
Can Jan help here, please?
Yes, I'm very happy to. I think you're absolutely right to have a look at your timeline. In a lot of SACREs, they tend to, a year before that it's due for renewal, they have a very serious meeting where they discuss whether or not teachers, head teachers, and everybody delivering the children have had positive responses to the agreed syllabus. Now, the only way you're going to really have that is if you put out a bit of a poll and you send out something to the schools to see what kind of response you get back. So if you send out a little survey, we could do an easy one. We could do a little poll online that got sent to the schools. We could try to get some feedback to see how people were feeling about the agreed syllabus. Now, if you get great results, then in your discussion in SACRE, you might say, well, it looks like people are really happy with it. And because of everything that happened early on when you launched your agreed syllabus during lockdown meant you probably haven't had the full 5 years of real implementation. It might be a little bit tricky for you, actually. I think you did really, really well, by the way. So what you might want to do is to take the data that you get back from schools and then to decide whether or not you want to have a full review or a soft review, and how much change that you want at this stage. Is the change going to be good for the schools? Is the change going to be good for the children? And I think that those questions are very important. If your syllabus, when you look at it, if the schools are saying that they don't think it's really matched to what's happening nationally, for example, world views is really moving very fast nationally. Maybe some schools feel that the syllabus is a little outdated. You can always tweak just those areas. You don't have to do a complete rewrite. So I think you're wise. Definitely put it in the agenda for at least a year before. Maybe before that, send out a survey. And the other thing I would suggest very highly is that counsellors, we really depend on you here, is at any of the scrutiny meetings over finance and forward thinking over finance for new documentation, that is perhaps raised at least a year before, just to make sure that everyone is aware that SACRE might be requesting some money to help write the report.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me remind you, Jan, you are very new to Ealing. I think Marella is aware when we have Angela Doherty. It was ELP working with us, yeah? And she applied for some funding, and the local authority, I don't remember for what activities, they did provide some funding. Local authority is quite good if we can make a case to get a funding. Okay, thank you. Yes, Marella.
Yes, those are the directions we're going to go. Thank you, Jan. It's very, very important that we have your advice here. I hear, Jan, that you are an expert on pupil voice. Maybe we would need to develop that very much for the new curriculum as well. But I do agree with everything you say, and probably once I set out what I'm going to do with schools, information and the activities, like we did it last time, because a lot happens at that time, I will let the councillors know this is what it is, and then get the okay, and then start the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions, any concerns? No. Let's move on. Right. Number 10 is membership update. ELP advisor, Marella.
Yes, there was a new documentation that was sent from the DFE. I think Jan shared that with me as well. But I am not the expert on that, so I'm very, very honest about it. So Jan, again, could you just explain a little bit, if you don't mind, on the membership, the new expectations from the DFE? Chair, I sent that to you, did I not? Oh, let me see. I can share. I can put it on the screen.
I can't recall.
Okay, let's put it on the screen so people can see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Jan, do you want to would you like to help us?
If I can. Back in August, there was a court reading. There was a member in Kent that requested to be a part of the SACRE, and he was a humanist, and it was refused. And so it was taken to court. And in August, the judge allowed the reading to be released, and I was invited to that. Actually, it was very interesting to listen to the reading. And the basic thing is for SACREs to be aware is that we do still have the right to invite our membership, but that the membership should, of course, represent our community. And it should also represent not just the usual straightforward big six religions, but it should also welcome members in the community, such as humanists. So I think that was really the message, is that we shouldn't be there to turn things down. However, it is still our decision to make as a SACRE. So we do still have some decisions, if you like, to make, but what we don't want to do is to be in the same position as Kent, where you end up in High Court. That would not be such a great thing. I think in Ealing, you're very fair. And that is the important thing, is that you have great representation across your community.
Yeah. Having read this report, I like this case study very much, because we have Group A, a Christian denomination religious group. And according to this case opened by the Kent County Council, where he said, I have a belief in a religion, but the county council refused to have him as a member, SACRE member. So he took the county council to the court. The county council, the court judge rejected the county council's decision that under the Human Rights Act, he has belief, so it was, he should have been considered to Group A. So I think it's a quite a learning curve for us to understand that we can have in this Group A, other people from the other communities also. But I was also thinking, Jan, having a consensus data provided in Ealing, I think if we can consider that to understand the demographic change in Ealing, I think that might help us to have more members in all groups, Group A, B, C. We got a lot of vacancies. What would you say to
I think that's an excellent suggestion. I think if you start with the 2021 census, have a look at the demographic breakdown, and then see whether or not you're matching the demographics on your membership list, where you have perhaps vacancies, or where you have never ever had a member from a particular group. That's where, as a SACRE, you can then decide on who you wish to invite. And that's the most important word. You still have, as a SACRE, the choice to invite membership.
Right. I think, if I'm not wrong, Mirella got a list of all these organizations, Mirella?
Yes.
Yeah.
Membership or organization? Because I'm not quite.
Organizations list, yeah.
Let me have a look, because I'm not quite sure. Okay.
That's how
I might have something. I might have something.
You might have, yes, yeah. Right. Thank you. Let me take questions. Who was first? I'll take Councillor Ball first. Yeah. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, so we've for quite some time we've had two humanist members, and Oliver Murphy has left sadly, but there'd be no reason why he wouldn't get replaced. So I'm not sure that this has. I'm not quite sure what the implication of this is for us, because we were already quite happily accepting humanist members. So there's a court case saying we can't stop them coming on, but we weren't trying to anyway. So I'm not quite sure why we need to discuss it really.
Right.
Yeah, it's not probably relevant for Ealing, because we've been always open to groups, you know, I don't think this is just a case that obviously the DFE wants to make it a lesson for other boroughs, but.
All right. Councillor Rice?
Oh, thank you, Chair. Can I just clarify? I mean, do we have a vacancy for Roman Catholic, and have we end up in a situation where we're underrepresented for Roman Catholic? Because I would have thought, especially for Ealing, that would be quite a serious situation. So can I see what is actually going on? Thank you.
I think we have Roman Catholic vacancy for a long time. It is on the list, yes. Yeah. Do you have anyone in mind?
Well, I suppose it's something I could ask around the Catholic community and see if there's any suggestions. But if they, I mean, I don't know if they necessarily need to be ordained or anything, as it were. But if there's someone maybe from the community, that might be better than nothing, I suppose.
That would be great. That would be great. Yeah. Thank you. Lakshman.
I think some other people had their hands up before me, but
right, I'll come back to them. Yeah.
I can't understand how it worked with this court case, because if SACRE invites people, they want them. So how did this person, apply? Can you apply to join SACRE? Because the reason why I'm asking is, if that could happen, our SACRE could get applications on humanists is an obvious case, but we could get applications from another obscure group and then be taken to court if we refuse. That's how it might be relevant to us.
Yeah. Jack?
Well, you're putting me on the spot, because I'm not very good at the case law, but I understand that some people did raise exactly the same concerns. But the most important thing is to make sure that you haven't already got any vacancies under the groups that you should still have a member for, but also to be aware that if in your community that there are large groups, so representative groups, which would consider themselves to be part of a philosophical understanding, a serious philosophical understanding. I can't think of the exact words that the judge used, but they were saying it had to have some weight. It couldn't just be any person putting themselves forward. And we still have the right as a SACRE to put ourselves to associations to ask whether or not they can put someone forward to us, that we still have the right to request for a member to join us. We can also turn down individuals if we think that they're not representative of our community. So we've still got some powers. I'm not too sure about the case law on that one. We might have to go to a lawyer, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council memos.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to clarify a couple of things. The main problem here is that we are always lacking of the membership and the representation of all community groups. But luckily, fortunately, we are very good in Ealing than other boroughs. So we are very happy. In order to, a very interesting question, Councillor Rice raised that, but the problem here is we are not, as a SACRE body, we are not entertaining the individual. Actually, if, for example, a Roman Catholic father or representative wanted to come forward and join the SACRE, in this case, it has to be recognized from my information from a diocese, or in terms of Church of England, has to be recognized and clarified and approved from Archdeacon or whatever their hierarchy process is that. So it's not individual participation, Chair, as you know that. That's the participation of community group, religious group, like my colleague said, philosophical group. That should be the real representation, and that should be the real contribution and good contribution for SACRE. And this last thing, Chair, you are absolutely right. We need to think, we need to see the latest census and see the demographic has changed. We need to consider the demographic in terms of it should reflect SACRE. The demographic and the census and the population reflects the SACRE representation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Sue Larson.
Hi, thank you, Chair. Just 2 points I wanted to raise. In the document that I think is sort of published is the membership from October 22 of the SACRE. And, you know, it's my understanding that there's some people listed there who are no longer on the SACRE. So I was just going to request that we have an up-to-date list of the current SACRE members, maybe shared by the next meeting, so we can gain clarity on that. And also just to feedback, as I'm here as one of the Church of England representatives, and just a comment about the Roman Catholic, that I was asked by the diocese, because I work in a Church of England school, and it might be that the way to get a sort of Catholic representative would be to actually go through the Catholic diocese and ask for somebody from the school. It's just in my experience that teachers who are actually involved in teaching RE within the schools would have more of an interest in being on the SACRE. So that might be a route that we could go. There's obviously many Catholic schools within Ealing, and maybe we could get a representation through them.
Very good proposal. Excellent proposal. That would be great if teachers can come and join us. Yeah.
Agreed.
Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you. Thank you. So the main, any questions, members?
Can I just, may I make a comment, please, Chair?
Yes, please.
Just further to what Councillor Mahmood, thank you. Further to what Councillor Mahmood has just been saying, the idea that SACRE should represent proportionally the information we get from census is something that has been discussed over the years, and it's always been deemed important that children do get an education about the very small groups that are here, because they may not ever meet a member of that group, and it is essential that their education is going to prepare them to tolerate all types. So I think there's a lot more discussion, I think, to be had about the specific makeup of SACRE in relation to census data. Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions, members?
Chair?
Is Mirella, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
I've just put a just I don't know whether you're seeing it, but the latest census data, probably that will help us, but I'm happy to share it. Can you see it? Can everybody see it or not?
Very well.
Yeah, we can see that. Yeah.
Because that might be useful. I can send this to everybody because it's got other things as well. But one of the main things is the religion, and then obviously the backgrounds and things like that. But I can share that. All right.
I think that would be great. Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Marella. Councillor Ball.
Yeah, that's right. Just looking at that, so it's gone off the screen now, but there was something like 30 something% increase in
Can we bring that back?
Other religion.
Can we bring that back, Marella? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So it's a very large increase in other religion. I'm trying to work out which still a small amount, but I'm trying to work out what that would cover, because all the main ones are in there, aren't they? Do we know what other religion is has gained about 1%?
Zoroastrianism more.
Buddhist.
Hindu, Sikh. But Buddhist is already in there. Hindu and Sikh are already in there. Anyway, I don't know. Sorry, it was just.
There's Jainism, Zoroastrianism as well, isn't there?
Yes. Be surprised if either of them are getting hugely more popular. But anyway, no, that's just interesting to see that.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Concha.
Thank you, Chair. Just a small point. I know that most of the religions, that they're all institution mainstream, but Rastafari sees itself as a religion. Would that come under the umbrella of other? I'm just curious to know, because I'm just curious to know if anyone can address that, please. I'll be grateful.
Who can help? Is it Marella or Jan?
Yes, you are absolutely right. The data is only as helpful as far as it goes. It doesn't drill down to some of the more specific small groups that we have in the local area. So, for example, there might be a Levi group in there. There could be a Rastafari group in there. There could be a Jain group in there. We don't know.
Yes.
They haven't drilled down far enough. Now, they do usually drill down later. And
yes.
Sometimes we will get, the local authority or the borough will hear that they have drilled down for Ealing even further. But on this occasion with the census, unless people stated what they were, they might have only just ticked that they were another religion. So we will never know.
Thank you.
And could I just make one more comment? You know, that maybe we could compare also this kind of data that we get from the census, because that's in general for the population, but we are working with schools, and I think it does need to get matched to the schools, to the population of our schools. Am I correct in thinking that?
Yes, you are absolutely right. Just because this is the data for Ealing, it doesn't mean that is the data that there's a correlation between that and a school's data. So, for example, Chris, when he was giving his brilliant report earlier, his school doesn't quite match, does it? You know, when you look at his data, it doesn't match the overall Ealing data in terms of the demographic. So what is important is that each school represents what's actually on their school doorstep, as well as teaching what's happening more widely in Ealing and more widely in London and more widely in the UK. So yes, I think you are right that we do need to know, the schools need to be aware of their own individual data on religion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any more questions? Right, no. So Mirala, the vacancies we have at the moment, one, we need to update this list.
Okay.
Yeah, because number two, we need to send reminder letters to all organizations.
Okay.
Please,
yeah, I'll jot that down and I'll discuss it with Zainab because she organizes all that. But definitely, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, action.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this discussion and the presentation of the census. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next agenda item, which is national and local updates. It's Jan, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Right, there has been a huge amount going on. So I'm only going to share some of the sort of the headlines with you, but there are some implications in there for you as well. So I hope that some of you, if you've got your diaries with you today, that you may find some dates that you can do and come along to. I'm just going to put this on for you now. Great. Well, one of them we've already discussed. So the humanist action or the advice for us to be aware of is out there. If you sort of do a bit of a Google about the most recent court case, then you will find some information. But I've just put in yellow what I think the advice should be. There's been quite a lot of discussion nationally about what we should do about appointing people to SACRE, and how do we deal with having to turn people down. And there is just that reminder once more that we would normally approach groups and associations initially for them to put forward a person rather than an individual putting themselves forward. So I think that's just the best advice really still for us to stick to. The other piece of information coming through, and Marilla has already alluded to the Religious Education Council and NATRE's workforce data that's just been released. And I was really pleased to see that. And we will, of course, incorporate that data into our annual report for Ealing. But nationally, there has been quite a lot of discussion over the importance of religious education. And looking at the results, there were some surprises this year. The first surprise was that we noted that GCSE had a slight increase. It was actually an increase of 0.3% on last year. And the reason that was interesting for us is because we had a bit of doom and gloom last year with a lot of warnings coming out that we were going to see a big reduction in religious education or religious studies being taken throughout the country. So that's a really good thing. And when Mirella shared the data on Ealing schools, that just lifts my heart to see that so many schools are still entering for the religious education examinations. And that's one thing, of course, as a SACRE, I hope that we can continue to support. In terms of the A-level results, what we had with A-level is a decrease in entries. So we had 3.5%.
I think you're a Hindu.
Please, who is speaking?
Yes, we had a 3.5% decrease in the A-level exam entries nationally. So again, that will be really interesting once we can drill down into the Ealing data to see how we are comparing. But from the look of it, we're still holding up really well. So maybe we could become a bit of a case study nationally to encourage some of the other areas in the country where they are finding it more difficult to have to put the children forward. It could be that our results are still linked to recruitment, because if we've got good RE teachers still in Ealing, then that really does help in terms of our entries. But nationally, there is a massive problem with recruiting trained RE teachers. Now, I know that Ealing has great support with Morella, and that you've got an established network that's going within the borough. And I think very much that is the way forward, is to keep that network going. Because if we can keep those teachers upskilled and trained, there is a correlation between support that you provide RE teachers and whether they leave the profession. So if we can support the teachers, hopefully we will retain our teachers, and that will then lead back into your results. So that was really interesting. The other information coming forward was from the SACRE, and they have recommended that we are reminded to have a look at our development plan. And that's that time of year, isn't it, when we reflect on the previous year, and we also reflect forward in terms of what we want our SMART targets to be as we move forward into the new year. They just suggested that we make things action-led, proactive, and that we consider allocating roles to the SACRE members so that they take some formal responsibility for pushing some new ideas forward. So a little bit like you were saying earlier, with determinations, you've already have 2 members put their names forward. That's superb. But if we could have other things happening in SACRE where people allocate their names, that really does help the SACRE to grow. Some of the things that they suggested were that we might have a role looking at RS or RE teacher retention and recruitment. The second thing that they recommended we might have a role in SACRE looking at would be SACRE and its links to academies in the borough. The third area was monitoring RE and collective worship. There might be somebody within the group who would like to put their name forward for that. And the fourth area was collective worship guidance. So that might be something that we might have a think about. That one is a bit tricky because we're still waiting on the national guidance and it still hasn't been released. That should be very, very soon. So those were 4 considerations for us, and as well as maybe looking at the development plan. The next national update I can share is from ARIAC. ARIAC is the Association for Religious Education Inspectors, Advisors and Consultants. And I'm very fortunate to sit as their vice chair this year. And we're doing a lot of lobbying this year, especially with the RS or the RE HMI inspectors within Ofsted. And we've been asking about the powers that SACRE have and the support that SACRE are being provided by the Ofsted reports. And ARIAC are trying to get Ofsted to comment much more on RE and saying how where the RE is good and giving some case studies that we can look to, and also suggesting where RE is not meeting its statutory requirements, and that will be helpful to SACRE as well. We're due to meet with the new HMI within the next few weeks, and I will report back what the conversation was and how successful we were. The last of the national updates comes from the RE hubs. So every single area in the country now has an RE hub funded by Culham St Gabriel's, the REC, and by ARIAC and by NATRE. The RE hub is a way of pulling all the associations together. And there are 2 invitations for us. So if you've got your diaries there, it would be lovely if someone can go to the 8th of November at 6:30. Sadly, I can't. I'm actually representing another SACRE meeting that night. But if someone from Ealing could go, that would be wonderful. And then you could perhaps report back at the next SACRE event in January. This is going to be about listening to one another. So we get a feel for what's happening across London SACREs, but we can also take issues, ideas, concerns and questions to the NASACRE members from the executive board that that will be there to answer our questions. So that's the first thing. The second invitation is for those of you who would like to be a speaker, speaking about your faith or your belief in schools and in the community. You are being offered some free training. The idea of the training is that once you have successfully completed the training, you can be uploaded onto the RE Hub database, and the Ealing schools can find where you're based. So let's say they need a speaker from a Hindu community, or they want a speaker from a Christian community. They would put down what they were looking for, and hopefully the name of somebody in Ealing would come up, and they can then make direct contact with them to invite them into their school. So if you're interested in having the training and being on that database, there is a registration tab on the RE Hub's website. So do please have a look. That's everything for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you. Right, members, any points, any concerns, questions? Thank you. Thank you very much, Jan. Thank you. It was great to hear from you about the future trainings and SACRE members' entitlement or engagement in the providing these services. So, shall we move on to, before I move to Ealing SACRE plan, I would like to ask you all members, do you want us to meet really on the having these meetings, virtual meetings? Because some members, they feel we should be having face-to-face meetings. Because last time in the past, we agreed to have virtual meetings. We have a good attendance. I don't know before the COVID, I don't know, we used to meet face-to-face at the Ealing or Percival House having these meetings. I don't know what the attendance was at that time.
It was good.
So can we please decide tonight whether we need to have these meetings, virtual meetings or face-to-face meetings? Please tell me, all of you, what do you want? Give me your views. Thank you. I'll ask Councillor Mahmood first.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me a chance. I can give you the idea when I used to chair the SACRE meeting for 4 years. It was not that successful, to be honest, what you are having on Zoom, and yeah, there was always difficult. There were always difficulty people to join the in-person meeting. So for the time being, I would suggest leave it as it is, because I could see that the last year attendance and the attendance before that, so that the virtual meeting I think is more effective and more time saving. So from my personal opinion, I think we should go ahead for virtual meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rice.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've only been on previous to COVID. I've only been on this committee as a sub. My experience then was that it was actually quite a full meeting. I thought there were a lot of people there. I think it would probably be a very good, interesting experience for us to actually get to know each other, especially since we're understanding about belief and to bounce off each other. And so, if we do manage to get some new members in, if we do start filling some of the vacancies, that might be a really excellent opportunity to meet people and to meet in person. And maybe there'll be some new enthusiasm from some new members, and then we can probably take it from there. So I would say, yes, let's have a look at face-to-face. Thank you.
Thank you. Kat? Is it Catherine?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just wondered whether we could know how many people members of the public watch this online. Because we know from having it face to face that very few people actually turned up in the audience. And I just wondered how much that had changed.
I have no idea.
That's why I thought
I can ask only Keith, who can help us. He might help us. Keith, any idea?
Yes, Chair. It's actually, if you go on the YouTube sites, you can actually see how many people have viewed the various videos.
Yeah.
So you just have to search for SACRE, or sometimes it's described with the longer name.
Right.
And then you can see exactly how many people have viewed each video.
Right. Thank you. But we don't have any data at the moment. How many people?
I might have, if you hang on a minute, I might be able to.
Okay. That will help.
Yeah. If you carry on talking, I might be able to come back to you on that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'll come back to Sue Larson. Sue?
Hi, thank you. I just wanted to say that I would be in favour of meeting in person. I just think it's an important part of working together as a team, building relationships and getting to know the people you're working with. So I would certainly be supportive of that.
In person, face to face.
Yeah, in person, face to face. Yeah, I do think that it leads to good teamwork and effective work for the SACRE.
Right. 2 and 2. Marianne.
I concur with what Sue has just said, and having been on SACRE for a while, I can see two things that in-person meetings did, which were, I thought, very good. And that is that the level of discussion and the inclusion was much more pronounced, because I think on screen, people do hesitate to interact in the same way. The other thing is we have these 4 groups, A, B, C, and D, and there have been occasions when the groups have needed to have their individual meetings. And it was much easier to do that in a room than to set up breakaway groups in Zoom. So I would favour in-person meetings again.
Thank you. 3, 2. Who's next? Could you put your hands down, Miriam?
I'm just going to make. I'm just going to raise another point when there's time, Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, just for a sec. Yeah, Councillor Ball.
Yes, so I also have a personal preference for in-person meetings. I think many of us do a lot of Zoom meetings and team meetings, and so it is nice to vary it up a bit. And also I agree with the comments that we've just had about the general point about it being better to kind of build relationships and so on with people, and the specific point that I think it was Marianne that made about the ABCD groups, because we have had sessions where we've split up into those groups. So yeah, I would be in favour of in person. Oh yes, and just to pick up on the question Kath was asking about people watching it. I mean, what we do with in-person council meetings is that we stream them on YouTube anyway. So we have cameras in the rooms and we stream it on YouTube. So that's, I'd imagine that's what we do. So people would still be able to watch at home, even if we were meeting in a room.
Thank you. Aisha Raza, Councillor Raza.
Yeah, I suppose ideally it would be great to have hybrid, because I have to say on some of them, because we're rushing around to get from one meeting to another, being there in person can be quite difficult. So purely on a completely personal level, like tonight, I had 2 meetings back to back, and I was able to do that because I was doing them online. That might not have been necessary. I wouldn't be able to have rushed into the town hall to make an in-person meeting. But if it was hybrid, you'd have that option. So I think we need to make it as inclusive as possible, and by doing it that way, ideally, it would mean that nobody would get left off.
Thank you. Councillor Gallant.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I mean, I could go with Councillor Raza. I mean, I agree. If we can have a hybrid meeting, it's very nice to meet people and actually feel the air move with people's thoughts. rather than looking on tiny screens. But if it can be hybrid, that's also good. So it allows us to participate if we can't make it to the town hall or to Percival House.
Right. Okay. Votes are increasing. Yeah. Thank you. Jan, what would you say?
I was just going to sort of throw in the national kind of discussion for you all, because that's always interesting. And what a lot of SACREs are deciding to do is they're having some kind of Zoom meetings like you're having, especially during the winter months when it's dark and people don't necessarily like sort of traveling so late. And then they're having the face-to-face celebration meetings where they'll invite schools, and it will be much more a big celebration, especially in June time. That's often when the SACREs are deciding to have that face-to-face, depending whether you have 3 or 4 meetings. Some people have 2 and 2.
I would like to ask you, Jan, particularly, you don't live in Ealing. Would you be, if we started to have a face-to-face meeting, would you be able to make it on time? Would you be able to attend these meetings?
Yes, I'm here to serve you, and it will be whatever decision you make, and I will attend. That doesn't matter.
Okay, that's great. Lakshman, thank you. Lakshman?
Hi, thanks, Chair. I prefer the Zoom meetings, because if I get held up at work, there's a possibility of me coming. But I also like in-person meetings, so I'm erring towards hybrid, but it can become a bit of a logistical nightmare trying to organize a hybrid one, where people on Zoom can ask questions and the people in the room can hear them, and vice versa. So I think it's going to take a lot of organizing if it's going to be a hybrid. But if we were going to meet in person, I would like to have it hybrid so that there's a choice for everybody to attend.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Mahmood, you want to come back?
Thank you, Chair. It's a very interesting contribution for other members. It's a mix of, but what I would suggest you, like Jan said, I'm absolutely agree with her. If we will do some sort of introductory meeting or social gathering, like when we will be inviting schools, yes, that will be a great chance to know each other and celebrate something. Then we could have in-person meeting. But like she said, the winter is coming, and I don't want to see our in-person meeting, the participation shouldn't be the low. The level of participant, if you see in virtual meeting, is very great. So that's my contribution, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Who was it? Sorry.
Chair.
Who is it?
That's Keith.
Keith. Hello, Keith.
Yeah.
Hi.
If I just come back, because it might help with this discussion.
Yeah.
So just looking at the various meetings we've had, I think the average is around about 50 viewings.
Wow.
55. One of them got 88.
Wow.
One of them got 66. But generally speaking, they're about 55, 56, something like that. So that's the level of viewing. Just to come back on the hybrid meeting situation, that actually is something we do all the time anyway. So it's quite possible to do that, and it's just what we do for other meetings, generally speaking. So it would not be a bar for the future, but that's all I would say. We can do whatever you wish.
Thank you very much. We will decide. Councillor Mahmood, have you finished? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no, Chair, just wanted to clarify that. So Keith, are you saying the live audience is 50, 55, and sometimes 60? It's a live audience. So if we will be doing in-person meeting, so we will be losing that audience, in other words.
Well, right. I just want to distinguish what I'm talking about here, because what I'm talking about is the number of views of the video. Okay, so that's not necessarily people watching it live. They may watch it afterwards. So I'm not talking about people contributing to the meeting, which are, you know, everybody that's invited to this meeting. I'm talking about people who are watching it remotely.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Mirella, you are next.
Yes, I was going to suggest the same, you know, hybrid will meet the needs of everybody. But just for your curiosity, I looked at all the notes from the last 3 meetings, 3 years that I've been attending, or even more. And the participation is almost the same. I will just make a suggestion. Maybe for the winter one, yes, we could do a kind of hybrid or an online. Probably we could change the timing a bit, maybe 6 to 8, something like that. And this also would enable some people to come. But maybe I'm just, you know, because in some bars, as far as I know, they do it quite early. And the celebration at the end, I'm very keen as well, you know, to introduce that, you know, where we could have some celebration of SACRE, maybe, as Jan said, we could invite some of the schools, but we could also invite some other SACREs as well. So we have a lot of...
I think having a meeting earlier than 7 o'clock, council meetings are always start at 7 o'clock. Okay. Always. But I don't know whether this group would agree to have earlier meetings at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8. I don't know what other members' availability.
Chair, I think leave it 7 o'clock. That's been tradition, and that's the set timing for the council.
Right. Thank you. What other group members?
I feel the same because I teach and do all sorts. No doubt everybody's got work commitments, and it's problematic for me to get anywhere for 6 maybe. But
yeah,
that's how I feel.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Brajinder, Mrs. Lal.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. My personal view is to leave the time at 7, particularly for those that are working and trying to get to places and get to meeting. It gives enough time, or usually if there's no public transport or issues or anything. And then secondly, in terms of the meeting, my suggestion would be perhaps do 1 virtual and 1 in person and just alternate it.
All right. Okay. That's a good idea. Good idea.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Councillor Raza.
Yeah, I'm minded to keep it at 7 because on Tuesdays there seems to be quite a few meetings, and the clashes and the drama that would happen if everything happened at 6, I think for me would be really unhelpful. So yeah, if we could keep it at 7, I think that works.
Thank you very much. What other group members? Is it Kasab Minhas there?
Yeah, hi.
Hello. What would you say about this meeting?
Given that things have drastically changed, you know, since COVID, and you know, a lot of us got commitments, work, etc., kids, looking after how can I say, vulnerable people. All the corporate firms are, you know, doing a hybrid approach. I don't see what the issue would be here. If it facilitates for pretty much everyone. People who can make it can make it. People who can't can dial in. So my view is hybrid. If it's yes, that's the option. Keep it hybrid. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
And with in regards to the time,
hybrid means you have to come to Percival House. Yeah.
Sorry?
You have to come to attend the meeting at Percival House.
No, that would be face to face, wouldn't it?
That's what it is. Yes. If we are having meetings on Zoom, virtual meetings, then it will be different, technology. Yeah.
Can't people dial in to, or do like? So
no,
virtual.
I'm asking you what
I'd
sort
say
of
keep
meeting?
them virtual, keep them online if you can. Yes,
Right,
yeah.
okay. Well, yeah, it is confusing with hybrid
Sorry.
and virtual. Yeah, okay, virtual meeting. Thank you.
Chair,
Thank-
Chair, it's Keith here.
Hi, Keith. Sorry.
Can I just make another point? And I'm sorry to say I can't give you the definitive answer on this for this particular meeting.
Yeah.
But I do know that in most of our council meetings, this may be an exception, that if it's decided it's in person,
Yeah.
then members can only vote if they're actually there in person, even if they're joining remotely. So they can't, their vote doesn't count, and they're not part of the quorum if they are remote. Now, what I'm not clear on is if this applies to everybody, whether it's just the councillors, whether it's or whether all members of SACRE are included in that.
I think all members here.
Yeah, so that's the only thing that concerns me. Technically, there's not a problem. We can do hybrid meetings easily, but if it's decided, you know, some element of that hybrid meeting is going to be in person, then usually what happens is the only people that can vote on anything, and although others can express their opinion, their vote doesn't count unless they're in person.
Yeah, thank you very much for making this very important point. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right, Councillor Ball.
Yes, so to come back on that, so the thing is for council committee meetings and so on, they're under specific legislation, local government act, isn't it? And that's where the issue comes in, that people have to physically be present in order to vote. But the SACRE is set up under different legislation.
I think it's educational, councillor.
Yeah, that's right. So
that's why I'm not clear, to be honest with you. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. So the issue about only being able to vote when you're physically present, that doesn't apply to this meeting in the same way that it doesn't apply to licensing panels. For instance, we have our licensing panel virtually, and that works. So it's just it depends on which legislation they come under. I mean, if this came under the normal local government legislation,
it's
then
education.
we wouldn't be allowed to have virtual meetings, and no one would be allowed to vote at these. Yeah, so that's so definitely the issue about only being able to vote when you're present doesn't apply to this one. So yes, and a hybrid is in terms of the technology, a hybrid is what we have for most council meetings, where we have most of us are meeting in person in a room. Now they're in Percival House, and there's a camera which enables people to screen and camera that enables people to join in virtually on Zoom instead. So the technology exists to have hybrid meetings, and the issue about voting for hybrids is not a problem because the legislation is different. Yep.
Thank you, but we are not sure about the vote. That's what we need to check it, whether people can vote or what is the legislation.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it must be, because if we weren't allowed to vote, then none of these meetings would have been valid ever since we first started going.
Yeah,
I'm sure somebody checked.
That's right.
Chair.
Yes, Keith.
Just to clarify my point, I think I agree with Councillor Ball. I just what's slightly in the back of my mind is whether if it's one or the other sort of thing. So in other words, if you're in person, does that mean then you should all be in or not? And it's certainly true that it comes under different legislation. I just don't know exactly what that legislation says. So that's my only question. I think we just need to clarify and verify it, and we can come back on that point.
Thank you. Who to ask about this question?
I can take that away to clarify.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Jan, do you have any idea about these meetings, these voting system?
I do know there was some discussion during the time of COVID, and some SACREs as a result didn't actually hold meetings. But then we had a directive that came from the SACRE to say that it was perfectly okay to hold virtual meetings.
Right.
And that includes voting electronically. So that means that, you know, you can send out a poll and we can vote electronically. So but that may have been that we hadn't ever had to think about it before until COVID.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Councillor Mahmood.
Chair, just to conclude things, and I could see that you there are lots of different views. Can I suggest through you two things? First, when our next SACRE meeting is, could you just remind me?
In January the 30th, end of January.
End of January, yeah.
Yeah.
So can we leave that decision on that meeting? That's the first suggestion. By the time Keith will update that and see the legislation or whatever stuff required. And second thing is, SACRE is an advisory committee. We are not making a decision directly effect to the council. It's a very rare time when we do the voting, like new syllabus or some other our internal stuff. So in my personal view, we should leave that decision, gather all the information, and wait for Keith's input and making this decision on January's meeting.
All right, thank you very much. That will be winter, harsh winter, I hope. But we will have this virtual meeting in January. Then we will decide, we will discuss. Thank you very much for all contributions. Thank you very much. Shall we move on now? Next is Ealing SACRE work plan. Is it Jan? Jan to discuss about SACRE work plan. Yes, we got in front of us, yeah.
Jan, would you like to talk about it, or I can talk?
Would you like to do a little bit of both? There was only really one thing that I was going to raise, and so would you like me to go first? The only thing that I was going to talk about really with the work plan was a slight change in the way that we submit the annual report. So what I'm going to suggest to you is that we really have a push. So we sort of front load the work for the annual report, which I've already started very much in draft form, but it's really starting to gather momentum now. But what I would like to do is to have it all in place by January so that we can actually hopefully pass it in January if everyone is happy. And we can then submit it through to the Department of Education and into SACRE early in that new year, rather than dragging the process on, because I just think it would be far too long if we were to wait to submit it in May. So that would be the only thing really that I was hoping that you would consider. I hope that you all think that's manageable. I'm certainly willing to work hard to try to make sure that it's done on time.
So Jan, the deadline for the report is in May, yeah?
No. Yes, in the past, the report probably would have gone through about May, which is okay. That's what happens with some SACREs. But right. I am a bit of a stickler for getting ours to get my reports in as early as possible, because I do think it's important that we get them in, so we can then focus our time on what's happening going forward, if that makes sense, rather than looking back all the time. We're really looking forward and actually getting on with the future work. So I would really like it finished in January, if that's possible. That does mean that I do need support, obviously, from Morella, who's wonderful, who sends me the data and so on. And you have also, Councillor Joe, you've also been very brilliant at getting your statement in very early. But I don't see why we should have to drag it through to May.
But I think this is our first meeting. We haven't done a great deal of work yet. Is it the time to prepare this report, or shall we wait after January? We are meeting then again in May, I think. That is the last meeting will be 21st of May, I think. Yeah.
Can I just go on?
Reports can be done between really after January's meeting. So we haven't done any great deal of work. What are we going to write in my report, for example?
But we are reporting for the year before, okay? That is what we're doing. We're not reporting for 23-24. We are reporting for 22-23, which we have had.
Sorry, let me correct it. We recently done that report. It's already gone to Department for Education. We have completed that.
Yeah, the 21-22. This year, we're doing 22-23.
No, when is the 23-24 is starting?
Next year. Next academic year. Am I correct? This is what I understood from, I learned a lot from doing it last time.
Let me make it. I've done 2 reports. One with Leslie Pryor.
Yes.
Then recently you asked me to do it. I've done a little bit. Yeah. So I don't know how many reports do you require really?
We have to report annually to the Department of Education and to SACRE. Normally those reports are due in around the cusp of December and January. And the reason for that is because we can't really report much earlier because we're still waiting on the examination data to be analysed. So once that's released by the borough, and it looks like we're fairly close to that, Mirella, already, which is quite early actually. We don't usually get the results until November. But once those results are released, we can really start firming the report up and it should be in a good shape to send. We do need to probably put some case studies in, which we could put in some of the ones that Mirella has used in some of the SACRE meetings in the past, including the special school. And we could put another case study in of perhaps from one of the members that attends the network meeting. But apart from that, we haven't got very much more data to still find. You're very good at Ealing at having things annotated in your minutes, and that makes life much easier when it comes to writing the report. So we're fairly near to, I think, pulling it together.
We just need to add the data, which will come very soon, and I will be sharing it with Jan, because we want to produce some data. And Jan, if I understand correctly, because last year I asked about 100 SACREs and they told me you can send it by December, that's the deadline, but they can kind of expect also people to send them by 31st of March, because that is when the data would have come out. But I just go back to the previous point that we are reporting this year on 22-23, that academic year. We're not reporting on the 23-24. So we have all the information. The only thing is the data is a bit behind, that we will get it. It's like the census data that I showed you earlier on. That actually is the census data of November 2022, but the report came out in May 23. So, sorry, June 23 even. So we are on the way, aren't we? We've done most of the work, probably 80% of it.
So I'm trying to understand what is the requirement of Department for Education. Do they require 2 reports annually or 1 report from SACRE?
We have a statutory requirement to provide 1 annual report per year.
Yeah,
and that is due. It's due around December, January is usually when I submit the report, and that is a bit like HMI kind of reporting. It's always about your prior year, the previous year. So you're quite right. You've just submitted a statement about last year, and that's what will be within this report. We will be talking about what we achieved as a SACRE last year.
And Jan, going back to your question, I have amended the SACRE report, the plan, the work plan. You can see that the drafts is actually going to be shared with the SACRE members in January meeting, so that you will be ready to we will be ready to submit it to the DFE by, let's say, before March even.
I think that's a really good recommendation, Mirella. And then we can focus our time on other things, which is important, I think.
Yeah. But basically what I've done, this is a replication of everything, because obviously this is a guidance from the government, how these SACRE meetings should look like. But I just changed a couple of things that we needed, as you said, per your advice, I did that. So any questions?
Not from any members. No, can't see any hands. Oh, no.
And of course, we will have an update all the time with regards to the membership, with all these things that we discussed today. We will have a look, so this will be kind of termly discussed. And we will obviously make it, renew it when it is necessary to do so, and so on.
So do we agree with SACRE meetings?
Chair, we are absolutely agree. It's a very comprehensive programs, and in my opinion, it covers lots of area. So that's a good work program, and I'm happy and agree. And I'm sure my colleagues will echo with me.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes, agreed. That's fine. That's very good.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. So let me make a couple of, let me tell you a couple of things. One is because today is our first meeting of the current year. We are having only 3 meetings this year. So I received an email. I think it came to the Democratic Services from Mark Polston. Polson, not Polston. Mark Polston, who is a very prominent member of our SACRE. He has resigned due to his heavy commitment with other meetings, other life. So he has resigned from this committee. I think I'll make a note. He was quite supportive of SACRE. He used to attend regular meetings, and I'm really sorry to see him going. But I wish him well with his new life, new perspectives. So that's what I want to say to you. The next meeting is scheduled for January the 30th, 2024. So before I close this meeting, do you have any points, any concerns, anything you want to raise, members? No.
No, thanks,
So
Chair.
Right,
hold on. Virginia, Ms. Lard.
It's not any concerns, but just to let you know that William Perkins High School invited SACRE members to go and talk at their school, and I accepted one of the talks, so I'll be going on the 19th of October.
Right. Have they invited in the assembly or just in the school? Particular time?
It's just the school. They sent out an email to SACRE members inviting them to go along and do a talk, and they had 3 different slots, and the slot that I selected was RE for all. My topic is going to be respect.
Yeah.
And that's on the 19th of October.
19th of October. Please, SACRE members, put your hands up. Whoever is willing, it's Emma. Emma, is it Emma Lauder?
Hi,
Yeah.
just to say thank you for that.
Oh, hi, I remember your surname. Yeah, good.
Yeah, if
So-
anyone else would like to attend, just drop me an email. It'd be great to hear from you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Who else can join? Who else? So 2 members are sufficient, Mrs. Long?
Yeah, no, I mean, one person's sufficient, and they've got 3 different slots, so people can choose.
Right, right. I've got Councillor Grace Concha. Are you agree to go to visit the school?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you.
Oh, great, great. Grace Concha.
It's just the date. That's all. Once I get the date.
19th of October.
Look, can I just
Chair, 19th of October is when I'm going. But if you drop an email to Emma, she can share dates with you.
Thank you. I'll put my email address in the chat now. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. All right, thank you. All right, the next meeting. So thank you very much for attending the meeting and great to see you all. All the best. Take care. Meeting is closed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good night.
Good night, Chair. Good night, Chair, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.